I love LA, but I've got to be honest, there are some weird things about living here, things that are different than other cities that I've lived in or spent a lot of time in. From the people to the abandoned beaches, and what causes the city to grind to a halt. If you're thinking of moving to Los Angeles, what follows are the funky, must-know LA quirks. I'm Tony Mariotti, your luxury agent in LA. Let's go. Is LA fake? Well, I guess that depends. If you're talking about people, that's not been my experience. But if you're talking about the overall landscape, the answer might be, yeah, right down to the roots. I'll explain the roots part in a second, but first, let's start with the nightlife. Sometimes I go to cities where neighborhood bars all look the same, just a place to drink and get bombarded by bright neon beer signs. That's a lot less common in LA. Businesses here, not just bars, take their marketing very seriously. LA is hyper-competitive here, and everyone needs an edge, something unique. That's why so many venues have themes. Take bars like Bigfoot Lodge. Its interior is decked out to look like a national park lodge. Then there are tiki bars like Tiki Tea and Tonga Hut. In case you didn't know, tiki bars are an LA invention. Then there's the Venice Canals, man-made. They were created in 1905. And just down the street is Marina del Rey, the largest man-made marina in North America. Now, about those roots I mentioned, you know all the palm trees around town? Most aren't native to Southern California. Despite the diversity of palms in LA, only one species, the California fan palm, is native. All those slender Mexican fan palms that line LA boulevards are imported. Guess what other plants are not native? Ficus, bird of paradise, bougainvillea, jacarandas, and cypress, to name just a few. And then when you dig into LA's history, you find out LA really started as an idea. The idea of the good life available in Los Angeles was heavily marketed by the railroads, who promoted California as a tourist destination in the late 1800s. They built hotels and restaurants, offering amenities like valet service and clothes washing. I've got more to say about the service here in just a second, but let's start with the valets. I get a kick out of the fact that valets are still a really big thing here. They are everywhere, but are they necessary? I get it. Sometimes you're running late and you don't want to park a few blocks away and walk. But I know a Denny's in town that has its own valet, and I drove by this sign and I knew I had to get a picture for proof of how crazy the valet situation is here. LA drivers like to hustle when they can between point A and point B. Now everyone deals with slow going during commute hours, and honestly, weekends at midday aren't always better. In fact, I feel like weekend traffic is much worse than it was 20 years ago. But on the occasion when the freeways aren't packed, it seems there's always someone in the fast lane going slow. Come on. Now, about service in LA, Angelinos are hardworking, but there's something about service at mid-priced restaurants. Waiters tend to know less about food and wine. And my theory is many of them are merely on their way to another life as a movie star and not interested in much else. It's not the attitude, they're usually upbeat, and the desire to help is sincere, but for real service, you need to visit more upscale places. Cut, Mastro's, Musso and Frank, places like that. They have wait staffs that are not only warm, but really know their stuff. You know what else is weird about going out in LA? People here eat later. Maybe that's because it takes so long to drive places after work. Dinner reservations are hardest to get around 8 or 9 p.m. and compare that to Seattle, where prime time is 7 to 8 p.m. Resy published some data that New York reservations at 5:30 p.m. have become more popular, while reservations at 8 p.m. have become less popular. I wouldn't have expected to beat New York on the dining late part. Don't forget, my team and I can help you find the ideal neighborhood. We've helped hundreds of clients find the perfect home in LA. Be sure to write down this phone number and email address. You can reach us via phone, email, or even text us to get started. Here's another really local thing. Angelinos measure distances in minutes, not miles. Ask someone how far it is to reach the beach or LAX and they'll say 20 minutes or 1 hour, not 7 miles or 20 miles. In fact, in my quest to be precise, when people ask me how far something is, I always start with what time of day are you going? Because while something could be 10 miles away, it could take 15 minutes or 40 minutes to get there, depending on the time of day. I mentioned earlier that I don't meet many Angelinos that I consider fake. I've made a lot of great connections here that I'd say are really solid. But there might be another word here to describe folks in Los Angeles that starts with an F: flaky. Let me explain. Making plans with people is hard, and that's probably because travel time across town can take forever. People bail on plans all the time. There's another possible explanation. People like to keep their options open. It's the same phenomenon seen in big city dating. Something better may come up. Years ago when Eatvite was a thing, I invited people to a party and someone replied, "Can't wait, Tony, if nothing better comes up." Well, it was a joke because the person who wrote that was the co-host. And that joke works in LA because everyone knows there's a kernel of truth in it. One of the things I noticed about LA is that there are a lot of people out during the day, and my prior experiences in San Francisco and Seattle, in those cities, it's dead during the day. You only see people outside office buildings at lunchtime. But in LA, people are out and about in cafes with their laptops open, presumably writing scripts. And I do know one reason for this. A lot of people work seasonally, say during pilot season, or they're involved with project-based work like editing films. In LA, a big chunk of the workforce lives project to project, which is why you see so many people out on the street, anytime, any day. Maybe less surprising, but still weird, beaches are empty a lot of times. In spite of flexible and seasonal work, with all kinds of people out and about every day, some parks can be strangely quiet during midweek. I know midweek in Venice, the boardwalk can be pretty busy, but the beaches just a few yards away are empty. Conversely, a great surf break in Malibu could be busy anytime if the swell is good. It's strange how people can call in sick when the waves are rolling in. Now, despite the perception of LA beaches being warm and sunny all the time, it's not Florida. The ocean here is actually cold. You will freeze your buns off if you swim in the ocean in winter. And summer isn't really that much better. That's why surfers wear wetsuits. I think a lot of folks think of LA as a place where people frolic freely in the ocean. I've lived here for nearly 25 years and I've been in the ocean once. When I numbed up and couldn't feel anything below my knees, that was enough for me. Speaking of water, rain causes traffic to grind to a halt here. Not only because LA drivers are less skilled at driving on wet roads, but because rainwater short circuits electrical components. A friend of mine put it best, even a light drizzle will shut down traffic lights at major intersections, turning them into four-way stops. Big traffic snarls ensue. Here's a pet peeve. On a perfectly dry, midsummer morning, the water from lawn sprinklers runs off onto the streets and forms little streams. Congratulations, your recently washed shiny car is now streaked with brown mud. My all-time favorite weird thing about LA, people wear clothes that don't match the weather. I see people wearing sweaters when it's 68 degrees. They look like they're walking from the parking lot to a ski lodge when it's completely warm outside. I see people walking around town on summer days too, when it's 100 degrees, who are wearing jeans and a sweater. I'm warm-blooded, so I just don't get it. Don't forget, if you're thinking about moving to Los Angeles or just across town, call, email, text us, whatever works for you. My team and I would love to be your real estate resource. So, in spite of those few weird things about LA, if you want to see why people still move here, don't miss this must-watch video about the top reasons people choose LA over anywhere else. I'm Tony Mariotti. See you in the next video.